Hey, Republicans, I know you're watching. Yes, I absolutely know you're watching. Question for you. I know that you're totally cool with humiliation and subjugation, not just on the behalf of other people, but on your own behalf. Right, Lindsay? Right, Marco? Uh-huh. You love it, which is good because you're getting a lot of it. And then there's cruelty. I mean, obviously, you don't like it when people are cruel to you or your children, but you love it when people are cruel to other people. Like, I don't know, people you don't like. You have that in common with Donald, because otherwise, wouldn't you stop him? But that's ridiculous. So here's my question for you. How are you with destabilization? How are you with economic uncertainty that is getting so bad that we are heading into a recession? How are you with being screamed at by even your constituents who seem to be paying attention in sufficient numbers to oust you from your little positions of power? You like that too? Uh-huh. Well, guess what? Much, much more of it is coming. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this evening's episode of Marriage Up Live. It is lovely to have you here, and it is wonderful to be here. Well, there was a White House press conference today. I'm not entirely sure why we bother, given the fact that there aren't any actual reporters at these things anymore. But hey, I guess we need to keep up appearances. Let's cut to the chase, shall we? Donald is losing control. Yeah, no kidding. His tariffs, which he still doesn't seem to understand because, again, a moron, are set to wreck the economy, both, national and global. Because, listen, if you're going to do something, you may as well do it right. His foreign policy is making America a global pariah. And his administration is now just a tool for billionaires like Elon Musk, who has carte blanche to dismantle our government. So today's press conference, Donald suggested that President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine doesn't want to make a deal as much as Vladimir Putin and Russia do. Watch this.
Well, I tell you what, I think it takes two to tango, and you're going to have to make a deal with Russia, and you're going to have to make a deal with Ukraine. You're going to have the assent, and you're going to have the consent from the European nations, because I think that's important, and from us. I think everybody has to get into a room, so to speak, and we have to make a deal. And the deal can be made very fast. It should not be that hard a deal to make. It can be made very fast. Now, maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal. And if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long. That person will not be listened to very long. Because I believe that Russia wants to make a deal. I believe certainly the people of Ukraine want to make a deal. They've suffered more than anybody else. We talk about suffering. They've suffered. But if you think about it, under President Bush, they got Georgia, right? Russia got Georgia. Under President Obama, they got a nice big submarine base, a nice big chunk of land where they have their submarines. You know that, right? Crimea. Under President Trump, they got nothing. And under President Biden, they tried to get the whole thing. They tried to get the whole big Ukraine.
President Biden. Wow. Okay. I forget sometimes that idiot can read. But apparently, because there's no flippin' way he remembered Crimea. Okay. There's so much wrong with everything he just said. Starting with the fact that now It's time to hear from Europe and NATO, considering they were completely shut out of the so-called negotiations in Riyadh. Hmm, interesting. Russia wants a deal. The Ukrainian people who have suffered terribly want a deal? Sure. By the way, they're suffering now because of you, you monster. And no, they do not want this deal. They do not want your deal because your deal is Vladimir Putin's deal. So essentially, what you're suggesting is that it's totally cool to hand over all of the illegally stolen property that Russia now has that used to belong to Ukraine and still does, because every other president before you has failed Ukraine miserably. Sure, that makes sense. Um, always just grasping the issues with a depth and nuance that never cease to amaze me. Here's an example, because obviously, Donald lied about everything that's actually happening in this tragic situation. Here's an example of his not answering a question, no matter how many times it was repeated, about his being aligned with Vladimir Putin. Take a look.
Are you considering canceling military aid to Ukraine? And can we get a reaction to what the Prime Minister said, that your administration is bringing U.S. worldview in alignment with Moscow's?
So this is a deal that should have never happened. This is a deal that would have never happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. It didn't happen. It was never even close to happening. If I were president, it would not have happened. And October 7th would not have happened in Israel. And inflation wouldn't have happened. And Afghanistan, disastrous, the way they withdrew. Not the fact that they withdrew, but the way they withdrew would have never happened. And we would have had Bagram right now instead of China having it. It was 1 hour away from where China makes their nuclear weapons. We would have kept Bagram, with one of the biggest air bases in the world. All of these things happened, and it's a shame. But it is what it is, and now we're here. I want to see it end fast. I don't want to see this go on for years and years. Now, President Zelensky supposedly made a statement today in AP. I'm not a big fan of AP, so maybe it was an incorrect statement, but he said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time. And he better not be right about that. That's all I'm saying.
You know, I try to maintain my equilibrium, but Jesus Christ. First of all, you don't like AP because they continue to call it the Gulf of Mexico, which is actually what it's named when you're a toddler. Secondly, that phrase, it is what it is. If you guys want to understand why, that makes me so crazy. I actually made a whole video about it because it's kind of devastating. All right then. All of these things would not have happened. Russia's invasion review. Well, that wouldn't have happened because Donald just would have said, "Hey, Vlad, go ahead, it's yours." So, good point. October 7th wouldn't have happened. Okay, no, I don't quite see that. But there are actually things that would not have happened if he had been president. Oh, like 1 million Americans dying from COVID, economic collapse that created the huge inflation that President Biden got blamed for. What else? Oh, I don't know. The complete and utter destruction of American democracy, treason, perhaps. Yes, none of those things would have happened had you been president. So he still, with all of those lies, and also he never said what he was talking about. That thing would not have happened. Well, that thing you're talking about is the illegal invasion by Russia, our former enemy, of Ukraine, our former ally, and the ensuing crimes against humanity that Russia, clearly with your consent or approval, and now consent, was committing. The tens of thousands of deaths of innocent Ukrainian people and the kidnapping of thousands of Ukrainian children. All good? All good. Why? Well, we're going to find that out eventually. But the short answer is because you, Donald, are a pathetic piece of garbage. who admires murderous dictators because you're pathetic. Okay, so then we're off to a rip-roaring start. Then Donald stood there and confirmed that his trade war is full steam ahead to the incalculable detriment of American businesses and consumers. Let's watch.
So we're going April 2nd, but very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs.
Well, that was a riveting last couple of seconds of the clip. But seriously, you're going to force people to build stuff in a place they don't want to build it. I don't think that's going to work out well for us. But what Donald's doing here, well, let me this tariff thing continues to drive me crazy because it's a very simple concept and he continues not to understand it, which shouldn't surprise me. But people have tried to explain it to him. But he just, says he's got it in his teeth. He cannot let it go. I wrote this on Twitter, which is probably wasn't the wisest thing to do considering what has ensued since then. I wrote this about Elon Musk. I didn't at him or anything. I'm not completely reckless. But I said something like, it must be such a complete burden to walk around being such a moron all the time. This is so much more true of Donald. It is painful how stupid he is. Because now, because he's obsessed with tariffs, which are a terrible idea for all concerned, he's risked plunging the United States and our neighbors, who were once among our closest allies, into an economic freefall. And we're already seeing the impact of this. In anticipation of the announcement, Canada has already confirmed retaliatory measures against us. Foreign Minister Melanie Joly said Canada is prepared to respond with up to $155 billion in counter tariffs on U.S. goods. And she criticized the Trump regime's, quote, unpredictability and chaos, unquote. Watch this.
We need to be able to deal with the unpredictability of President Trump. We need to be aware that the threat of tariffs is a real one and may continue for a while. And meanwhile, we need to stand strong and send a clear message that Canadians will fight back. And that's what we'll do. Since we're not the only ones under the threat of tariffs, this is exactly why I'm here right now in the UK, and I've been in Europe now for 10 days. It is important that allies under that threat work together and work as a coalition by having the same types of countermeasures, of counter tariffs. And so that's what I've done in Paris, in London, in also Munich, in Germany, and also in Brussels. And I'll continue to do that.
Yes, that is the way. Always, always join together and pile on. You know what would also be great? Please start calling him Donald. He'd hate it. It would drive him crazy. And it would make me happy. I mean, not that that's a reason to do it, but still, extra bonus for me. All right, so what's happening because of this abject stupidity? The oil industry has already been hit, and that's something he's supposed to care about. I'm actually surprised that his Saudi minders aren't, talking to him about this. The cost of steel pipe for oil and gas wells surged. Oh, wait, what am I talking about? This will redound to the benefit of Saudi Arabia, won't it? Because the cost of steel pipe for oil and gas wells has surged following Donald's tariff announcement on steel and aluminum imports, which is adding financial strain to the energy companies because he understands nothing. I think I need to stop. I need to retire that one too, because that just goes without saying. Sorry. Donald is pursuing contradictory economic goals because of course he is. His tariffs aim to increase revenue and boost U.S. manufacturing, but many of his policies conflict with that goal and could hurt businesses reliant on global supply chains. I'm just refocusing. I'm not doing anything weird, just in case you were wondering. Alaska gas project is in jeopardy due to Donald's pressure on. By the way, Alaska is part of the United States of America. He may not know that, but it is. So probably not the best thing to do to put an Alaska gas project in jeopardy. And this is because of Donald's pressure on foreign nations to buy more U.S. energy. Asian investors are reconsidering the $44 billion Alaska LNG project, which would stall a decades-old plan. Donald has also ordered Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to investigate foreign copper imports as a potential national security risk, which is kind of hard to square, which is signaling more protectionist measures in the form of more tariffs. In other news, though, Taiwanese chip giant TSMC will invest $165 billion in the United States, while the Trump regime simultaneously, because they're way ahead of the curve, guts the federal office responsible for semiconductor development. It's not funny. Sorry. I mean, but they all, it's sort of funny how they continually are just so incredibly skilled at always doing the wrong thing. Donald's American supporters are finally starting to catch on that tariffs will affect the cost of living. Such a shame you all weren't paying attention back in November. One small business owner on Reddit had this to say, quote, "The president I voted for, the man who says, let's make America great again. Oh, Jesus. Let's help small businesses grow. That man is going to put me out of business." Unquote. Yeah, the finding out phase just sucks, doesn't it? Donald is hitting at more tariffs. God, get the guy a golf club. Seriously, what is happening? In a post that he published on his failing social media company, he suggested that on April 2nd, he may place tariffs on, quote, external agricultural products, unquote, signaling more disruption for U.S. farmers who are really taking a hit for various reasons. He wrote this, quote, "To the great farmers of the United States, get ready to start making a lot of agricultural product to be sold inside of the United States. Tariffs will go on external product on April 2nd. Have fun." Well, let's see. I'm pretty sure most farmers, well, look, what do I know? But I'm guessing they grow as much as they can. Like it's a finite amount of stuff they can grow, right? I'm sure I'll be taken to task about this eventually, but that seems logical to me. Also, by the way, a lot of farmers in the United States of America make their money selling their products to other countries through, for example, the now completely dismantled agency USAID. So, what's happening is there's a finite supply, and the number of markets in which the goods can be sold is shrinking, which will increase competition, which is very bad for all of us, especially the farmers. Farmers are not the only ones feeling the heat of Donald's really reckless and unfounded in any reality about the decision. Upon the tariff announcement, the Dow, which is something that actually does matter to Donald, although I'm pretty sure he's basically short selling everything and making a fortune, but I can't be sure. The Dow plummeted 650 points. The NASDAQ fell 2.64%, which is a lot of percentage points. And it's now down 6.5% since Donald took office. I feel so great again. According to reports from CNN and Reuters, market panic intensified the VIX Fear Index. That's a volatility index, which has surged, wiping out the bump that occurred in the wake of Donald's win in the November election. Investors fear higher prices, supply chain chaos, and foreign retaliation against U.S. exports, as they should. Play the clip.
We are following breaking news. All three major American stock markets have closed down for the day after President Trump took questions about tariffs going into effect tomorrow against Mexico and Canada and new tariffs coming against China. The Dow down 700, S&P down 100, NASDAQ down almost 500. What's going on?
So if you pull up a chart of the Dow, okay, right around when President Trump started taking questions about tariffs this afternoon, you're going to see this. It went off a cliff. And in fact, we were actually down over 900 points when it comes to the Dow at one point today. So those numbers that you just mentioned, they're definitely extreme, but they aren't as bad as we were. If you look particularly at the auto sector, Ford, GM, like Stellantis, they were all down significantly, over 2 to 3%, because these are the companies that have big plants in Mexico and Canada, and they're going to feel this as well as some of the retailers the most. By the way, we are not far off of where we actually were before in terms of these indexes when the president won the election. So we've actually kind of lost a lot of those gains.
What an economic genius. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling kind of 2008 flashbacks, and I don't like it. A U.S. manufacturing survey revealed that customers are pausing new orders due to confusion over tariff implementation, which is stalling economic momentum, which was a very real thing during the Biden administration. Crypto, oil, and defense sectors are also reacting negatively with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you know, the thing that Elon Musk likes so much, plunging 8.6%, erasing gains from Donald's proposed crypto reserve. While European defense stocks, this is always the way, isn't it? Soared as NATO allies brace for reduced United States support for Ukraine. In other words, this is very bad. One question I continue to have is why nobody ever says no to this child. Why? I mean, is it really that hard? Because if enough people did it, what's he going to do? Well, he's going to have a temper tantrum. Sure. But when doesn't he? I think we talked about this before. Unfortunately, we're in a position in which the only people who can do anything are Republicans in Congress and the members of his administration. So there's very little to hope for here. But you do have to wonder, is there no point? No point. I mean, I'm not talking about the total idiots like Harold Lutnick and Ken Voight and Ed Martin. They are beyond redemption to the extent that they ever were capable of such a thing. They're such viciously horrible, weak, stupid people. But there must be somebody. There must be enough people who are watching this in horror and understand, like, even if it's only their own self-interest they care about, they must understand that there's something they can do if they would only do it. Tomorrow, on March 4th, 2025, Donald will deliver his first joint session address to Congress since returning to the White House. It's scheduled to air at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Here's what we know so far. He's going to highlight his restructuring plan, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, like one of the most inaptly named things ever in the history of naming. Of course, this was led by Elon Musk, and it was Elon Musk's idea. Donald had nothing to do with it, and probably still has nothing to do with it because he doesn't know what's going on. He will also address his hardline immigration and tariff policies. He'll tout his radical foreign policy shifts, which are bad for the entire planet. Senator Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat of Michigan, will deliver the main response on behalf of the Democrats and is expected to focus on economic concerns, Donald's close ties to Elon Musk, and the administration's failure to address inflation, which, if you'll remember, was seemingly the only thing anybody cared about in the run-up to the 2024 election. Remember, eggs were really expensive. Well, they're like 20 billion times more expensive now. So how's that working out for everybody? I was exaggerating, but they're much, much, much more expensive. Americans are growing less and less accepting of Donald's agenda. And this morning, CNN put out a new poll about rating Donald's performance ahead of his address to Congress.
Approval ratings from Gallup and Quinnipiac showing Trump dropping a few points with an even steeper fall on Ipsos. A new CNN poll shows 52% of Americans disapprove of Trump's performance so far, something no other president has experienced at the start of their term in office. But it is important to point out this is still better than at any point in Trump's first 4 years in the White House during his first term.
That is so very embarrassing. But first of all, he's really working for it. So, makes sense. But 47%, this is better than at his first term. Really? You just hated Biden so much. You hated the Biden-Harris administration so much that you think this guy and what's happening now is better? Seriously, what is it going to take to wake you people up? Well, luckily, we're going to find out. Well, I should say unluckily, because it's going to be terrible. I just want to remind you that we will be streaming Donald's remarks to the joint session of Congress live. Again, that is 9 p.m. Eastern. And I have no doubt it will be a combination of things, but fascinating will be among them. So you should probably check it out, if you can bear it. Maine, the state of Maine, faces federal investigations after Governor Janet Mills told Donald at a meeting with governors, see you in court. Remember this? Let's play the clip.
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine?
Down here.
Are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
Oh, wow. Threats. Very mature. Very presidential. It is presidential now. That's what it means to be presidential now. It just is. People keep voting for this. That's what it means. People like that. They like it when he threatens people who disagree with him. He likes it when he does utterly cruel things, like pretend that he gives a shit about whether or not trans women play in sports. He likes it when he demeans other human beings, and nobody can stop him. About a week ago, the Trump regime launched 3 Title IX investigations into Maine shortly after that confrontation. Watch this.
President Trump's attorney general now threatening to sue the state, saying Maine is violating Title IX by requiring girls to compete against boys in sports.
Title IX is a federal law and applies to schools and programs that get federal funding. It says no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefit of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. In 2016, President Obama clarified that Title IX protections extend to students who are transgender. But those protections were quickly rolled back just 1 year later, when the Trump administration withdrew the guidance on gender identity. Over the next 4 years, the administration would take steps to limit the definition of gender to the sex assigned to a person at birth. There are at least 8 pending investigations in Maine right now that involved alleged Title IX violations.
Nobody is forcing anybody to do anything. This is about civil rights. This is about protecting the rights of one of our probably the most vulnerable populations in this country. That's what this is about. But because of his base, because of his complete lack of morality or empathy, he is perfectly comfortable trying to erase an entire class of people. And he's sort of well on his way to doing it. and nobody's stopping him except the governor of Maine. So hopefully bringing them to court, bringing Donald and his regime to court will matter. I'm not so sure. On March 1st, 2025, the FBI returned documents to Donald. The White House confirmed the return of records seized in the 2022 Mar-a-Lago raid, but did not clarify if classified documents were included. Donald's allies frame it as a victory. White House Communications Director Stephen Trunk falsely called the FBI search unlawful. It was not. And Donald's lawyer, Alina Habba, claimed the documents belong to him, despite ongoing legal debates over presidential records, and none of that belongs to him. It belongs to us. The original 2022 raid found 33 boxes. The FBI executed a search warrant in August 2022. It was not a raid. It was a legally authorized search. And everybody knew it was coming. As part of an investigation into Donald's mishandling of classified documents. Just to remind you, the FBI had been asking, the National Archives had been asking for over a year and a half for these documents to be returned before the search warrant was issued and acted upon. Despite previous claims of full compliance, authorities found numerous government files anyway. Since retaking office, Donald has installed loyalists at top DOJ positions and fired employees involved in classified documents and election interference cases. In other words, he's fired people who were simply doing their job, ensuring that there will be absolutely no legal consequences to him. Of course, the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court also helped to make that a slam dunk for him. In another post on his failing social media channel on March 1st, Donald celebrated the return of documents, saying they, quote, will someday be part of the Trump presidential library, unquote. And once again, insisting, I did absolutely nothing wrong, because he never does anything wrong. Well, I guess this is sort of a philosophical conundrum. If everything you do is wrong, is anything you do wrong? Watch this clip of Donald wasting even more taxpayer money by using Air Force One to bring his documents back to the scene of the crime.
Meanwhile, possible classified documents seized from Mar-a-Lago in 2022 are now back in Florida. Staffers for President Donald Trump were seen loading boxes from the previous investigation onto Air Force One as he flew down to his Florida estate. President Trump said they will one day be part of his presidential library. And Trump's communications director said the boxes contain personal items of the president. Trump previously was accused of keeping classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. He pleaded not guilty in the case.
Well, I mean, if they're not classified, why would he want them? First of all. Secondly, yes, let's take a moment to recognize the fact that not only is the insurrection that was started on January 6, 2021 complete, so too is this bit of treason. I guess now that Donald has the documents out of everybody's sight at Mar-a-Lago, he can continue to complete whatever deals he was in the midst of completing when the National Archives rightly took back our documents. This weekend, in a podcast interview with Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, who knows nothing about anything as well, criticized Social Security, calling it a Ponzi scheme and labeling the federal government one big pyramid scheme. Well, it is now. Let's watch this clip.
Just with a basic search of the Social Security database, that there were 20 million dead people marked as alive. Because they're marked as alive in the Social Security database, that they can then get disability, unemployment, sort of fake medical payments and other things. Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Have you ever looked at the debt clock?
Yes.
Okay. There's our present day debt, but then there's our future obligations. So when you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is.
Okay. Joe Rogan is a deeply unintelligent person, but he's capable of looking stuff up. I don't know if you remember this, but when the whole lie about dead people receiving Social Security started, it was like thousands of people. Then it became millions of people. Then it became 10 million people. And now it's 20 million people. Elon Musk has really been learning at the knees of his, well, no, it's the other way around. Anyway, he's been picking some stuff up from Donald as he fulfills his real job, which is to be Donald's minder. The number of people who fraudulently receive Social Security because they're dead doesn't even amount to a rounding error. And the fact that a program that has for decades now been an intrinsic part of America and how Americans are protected by, the slings and arrows that occur from time to time, economic downturns, health crises, deaths, etc., that he's referring to it as a Ponzi scheme, considering that Social Security is our money. It's not an entitlement program. We pay into it. So why? So if we become old and are unable to work because we're old, we don't starve homeless until we die. Or for sick and disabled people who can't earn a living anymore, that kind of comes in handy. Or for children whose parents die, or a parent who is the sole breadwinner of the family. It's so they and their siblings and their other parent don't get kicked out of their homes and die starving. That's what Social Security is for. It's so that we can retire at a decent age with the understanding and security that we will be able to eat until we die when we're supposed to, not because these cruel, psychotic people think we just don't deserve to be here anymore. Because why? A 2023 Social Security Administration audit found 18.8 million outdated records for people born before 1920, but only 44,000 received benefits consistent with record-keeping errors, not widespread fraud. Yep, it's that rounding error I've just mentioned. Less than 1%. There are less than 1% of improper payments. The SSA audits since 2014 identified just 44,152 possible cases of improper payments, totaling $870 million, which is a fraction of the $1.3 trillion paid annually. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but it's not in the grand scheme of things. SSA stated that fixing outdated records would cost between $5.5 million and $9.7 million and would have little impact because nearly all flagged counts were inactive anyway. So Musk disinformation fuels Donald's push to cut Social Security despite absolutely no evidence of large-scale fraud, which is a tactic similar to voter roll purchase, which is something I've talked about often. Republicans do this for voting rights. This is how they convince people to allow Republicans, when they're in power, to narrow their access to the franchise by getting rid of voting places, by requiring IDs. Now, of course, for Republicans, this does affect mostly the poor and people of color, so I guess it's totally cool. But, there are a lot of poor Republicans as well who can't afford a driver's license or a passport, who cannot meet the Jim Crow requirements of needing an ID to vote. So how do they do this? They convince people that voter fraud is a huge deal in this country when it's not. Something like 1 out of every 1 billion votes cast in this country is cast fraudulently. That is such an infinitesimal, it's very small. infinitesimal, I have to say it now, infinitesimally small number that it's incomprehensible how small that is. But now they're doing with Social Security, and you know that there will be people, because this will affect everybody, no matter who you voted for. They will convince their base, because they're the only people needing convincing right now, that it's for the greater good, because it's the dead people who are stealing their money from them. And besides which, it's a Ponzi scheme to benefit, people of color, Democrats in blue states. On Saturday, March 1st, 2025, USAID's Nick Enrich warned that the Trump regime's aid cuts to the agency will cause, quote unquote, preventable death. Lyndon is also very upset about this. And security threats by blocking life-saving humanitarian assistance. The very next day, Enrich was placed on administration leave after criticizing USAID leadership and Secretary of State Marco Rubio for obstructing aid. According to an NBC report back in February of 2025, all or nearly all aid programs, that's 72 projects, were terminated with payments never processed despite waiver claims. $60 billion in USAID cuts are crippling global health, famine relief, and vaccines for diseases like polio and Ebola. Donald and Elon Musk, overseeing these USAID cuts, claim it wastes taxpayers' money and pushes a liberal agenda. Yeah, like saving people's lives. How liberal of us. Take a look.
The president to reduce spending inside agencies. He's doing it a number of
Not his job, the question. Your job.
The first one, everybody, if you want me to answer the question, you'll have to stay quiet enough so people can hear my answer. Or if you just came here to yell, I can leave. You want me to do that? No. I'm sorry, I'd love to answer your question, but your friends or whoever these folks are making so much money.
Whoever they are.
Oh, there is just a complete and utter plethora of Dunning-Kruger effect events happening all over this country. First of all, they're your constituents. And secondly, yes, they want you to answer their questions, not lie to their faces so blatantly. All right. First of all, the monies given to USAID comprise less than 1% of the total budget of the United States of America. And there are many, 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 many reasons that this agency was necessary and worth the money, a very small amount of money we spent on it. Some of it has to do with soft power, which is the spreading of goodwill throughout the world, and which increases the likelihood that countries we help will become our allies and not become aligned with our enemies. So there's that. That's important. But of course, much more importantly, it saves lives by treating or preventing preventable diseases like polio, by treating diseases like AIDS from getting worse, from people starving unnecessarily. Well, guess what? None of that work is being done anymore. And I'm seeing estimates that in the not too distant future, there will be hundreds of thousands of preventable deaths because apparently, Donald Trump and the fascist Republican Party don't yet have enough blood on their hands. The Senate will vote on confirming the former WWE CEO, Linda McMahon, as education secretary, despite Donald's promise to dismantle the department she would lead. But I think that's kind of why they're putting her in there, because what does she care? Know or care about public education in this country? Donald's agenda for education is bleak, and clearly anybody who would be willing to fulfill this role shares that vision. His administration has already cut diversity programs, revoked transgender student protections, and pushed for expanded and has pushed for expanded school choice, which is potentially lethal to public education in America. And they're also working to defund and shut down the department.
The Senate is expected to vote today on whether to confirm President Trump's pick for Education Secretary Linda McMahon. We do want to show you the Senate floor here where that vote could happen quickly. McMahon, a former wrestling executive tasked by the president to dismantle the same agency she's been nominated to lead.
She's going to have a pretty smooth path to confirmation, Kana. We haven't seen any kind of Republican defections like some other of Donald Trump's handpicked cabinet picks have received.
Sorry about the clips. Anyway, of course she's going to pass. Everybody, I don't know. It's a sliding scale of horrors, but they're all bad. And if you're going to confirm Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel, why stop there? So Republicans don't believe in public education. They want all of us in, Christian Bible schools, not reading anything but the Bible. They want our children to grow up not knowing about things like slavery because it would hurt the white children's feelings. They want our children to grow up not tolerating families that are LGBTQ+. Yes, they want our children of color. They want our children who belong to those families with gay parents or what have you to be afraid all the time. And they want the white children to be ignorant and arrogant and cruel, just like they are. Speaking of those three things, this afternoon, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville had a few words about the disgraceful and catastrophic Oval Office Ukraine meeting and which side we're on. It pretty much sounds like, as far as Tuberville is concerned, the United States is firmly on the side of Russia and Vladimir Putin. Let's watch.
Zelensky, for some reason, wants this war to keep going. And he has been, brainwashed by the globalist socialist group in Europe and even some over here that, hey, just keep this thing going. We'll keep funneling money to you. But they couldn't be more wrong. President Trump is tired of people dying, our American taxpayer dollars going over there. And so he'll try to get this finished. But Zelensky's going to play hardball. But you know what? He's not even in the game. It's going to be Putin and President Trump and the people on our side that will end up making this decision for the future of Ukraine.
That's so incredibly offensive. I'm actually not even going to talk about it. But please, just being him. Well, you know what? Again, Dunning-Kruger, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He does not know how brain dead he is. But can somebody please, I don't know who, Mark Cuban, I don't know. I don't know any people like that, but somebody pay that idiot $1 billion to become a football coach again, please. Please. Anyway, apparently, like, he coached the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback, according to Donald. That's a thing that didn't happen. I know that. I don't know why. It's the only thing I know about football. So, according to reports by CNN and The Guardian today, when Donald's Oval Office meeting with Zelensky collapsed, it led to national security talks on whether to pause U.S. military aid to Ukraine, which is deeply alarming. But it's pretty obvious why President Zelensky hurt Donald's feelings by not taking it, by not appeasing him, by not kissing his feet and yesing him. The Trump regime is considering freezing that aid while military support is still arriving. Officials say new funding for Ukraine transport and training is unlikely, forcing the army to cut operations without additional funds. Now, Donald's call for a peace deal, it's exactly the same thing Russia's asking for, with Kremlin officials stating that Zelensky must be forced to negotiate. Watch this.
Meanwhile, Russia is making its first comment since the White House blow-up between President Trump and President Zelensky. The Kremlin says Zelensky does not want peace, and someone should make him want peace. This comes after Putin's spokesperson told a state TV reporter the Trump administration is rapidly changing U.S. foreign policy, and it is now, quote, largely in line with our vision.
Well, look, I mean, stopping aid that was already allocated by Congress is illegal and unconstitutional. You would think somebody in Congress would care enough to say something, but let's not expect miracles. The Republican Party, yeah, there's some people speaking out mildly. Lisa Murkowski, Republican of Alaska, James Lankford, Republican of some country, sorry, not country, some state. I'm not sure which, Nebraska maybe. Sorry. But let's see what happens after this. I mean, are they just going to say that they disagree with this, or are they going to do something about it? I have very little hope that they will do anything, which is one of the many reasons, but a significant one, why we are where we are. All right, it is time. I'm not entirely sure this is going to give me any emotional support, but maybe it will you. I'm not sure if, well, we'll see. March 3rd, which is today. I forgot for a second. Is World Wildlife Day. So we're celebrating, if that's the word. Is that the appropriate word? With this story about a daredevil cat. How do you know? Did the cat fill out a questionnaire? Okay. A daredevil cat who soared through the skies on a parachute skiing adventure, as cats are wont to do. Thankfully, he had a helmet. Yeah, he looks happy. The Bengal mix is named Thoth. I don't know how to pronounce it. Toth. He was strapped to his owner. Potential sadist. I'm not saying that that's the case. Ivan Kuznetsov, as they soared down the slopes of a ski resort in Russia, because again, something cats love to do. Watch if you dare. Okay, great soundtrack. I listen, obviously, cats are much cooler than I am. That goes without saying. However, my cats have never been outside. So that alarmed me. But hopefully, I mean, I actually thought they were jumping out of a plane or something. But that seemed more gentle than I had imagined. But I don't necessarily think that we should project onto our cats. I'm not entirely. He's probably awesome. I mean, he's definitely awesome. He's a cat. Of course, he's awesome. I just don't know if we should peg him as a daredevil. Although for him, that may be just any old Saturday. All right, let's get to your comments and questions. Thank you for bearing with me. All right. Rick, thank you very much. That's awesome. Has the whole debacle at the Oval Office been the goal of John Birch Society all along to make America a pariah state by getting the U.S. out of NATO? Yeah, it's been the goal of a lot of people and agencies. The Heritage Foundation is probably having a great time. Yeah, I mean, this is a long, long time coming. Putin certainly has been planning it for decades. So this is honestly, I think this was inevitable, considering nobody seemed to see it or do anything about it, sadly. Just me. Thank you so very much. Comment. A couple of Aussie compliments, Mary. You passed the pub test. You're fair dinkum. I don't know what that means, but passing the pub test sounds awesome. I've only been to Sydney, but I love Sydney, Australia. And I have a feeling I would love the rest of it too. Such people there are fantastic. Although I did almost get killed several times because I kept looking the wrong way when I crossed the street. Michael, thank you so much. And yes, Slava Ukraini. So thank you. Dumpster Diving Dragon, super sticker. Thank you so much. And awesome handle. And there you are again, Dumpster Diving Dragon. And again, what's happening? Ask a question next time. Thank you so much. Denisa, thank you so much for that. And comment, thank you for being you. Well, you're welcome. I'm kind of stuck with me, but thanks. Shannon, another super sticker. Thank you so much, Shannon. Regina, thank you very much for that. Very generous. Question: how long do you think it will take Donald to realize Canada and Mexico isn't intimidated by him? No, eternity? No, he's not going to admit that. I mean, on some very, very deep level, he knows it because he's always known it. But that's why we're in this mess. I actually made a video about that recently. It should be dropping soon. Check it out. Margie, thank you very much. Super sticker. That's great. Cindy, another super sticker. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Mariana, another super sticker. Thank you, Mariana, as always. Kenderson, thank you so much. Canadian, awesome. Comment. Hi, Mary, from Canada. Your currency gave you away. True North Strong and free. Always. Thanks for your daily shit show updates. Your show is the only American thing I'm not boycotting. Wow, thank you. That means a lot. Seriously, it really does. Because as all of you Canadians know, I will remain forever deeply sorry about what's happening. It's terrific. Thank you. Inside the purple purse, thank you very much. Comment: I'm curious what kind of sand do Trumpers keep in their head? Keep their head in. Sorry, that would be weird if it were the other way around. Although I would put nothing past them at this point. I think it's cement. There's sand in cement. So that's a thing that could happen. Cheryl, another Canadian and a super sticker. Thank you, Cheryl. Edie, another super sticker. Thank you so much. Wow, Canadians representing tonight. Thank you, Patricia. Very kind of you. Comment: what a very stable genius. Isn't he just? Canada's ready, Donald. Bring it on. Just wait till he finds out. It's going to be really fun. I, for one, am looking forward to it. Adrian, another super sticker. Thank you so very much. Bill, thank you very much to you as well. Roxana, thanks very much for that. Comment: many thanks for the best news coverage. Wow, thank you. We have an amazing team over here. They make it easy for me. I mean, the news is horrible, but they make it easy to talk about the horrible things, which really helps. Valerie, super sticker. Wow, Valerie, that is incredibly generous of you. Thank you so much. At phone home. Oh, I'm such an idiot. E.T. phone home. I usually see it capitalized, so forgive me. Super sticker. I'm never Never gonna live that down. Anyway, thank you so much. Very generous of you. Eve, another super sticker. Thank you so much, Eve. Sherry, another super sticker. Thank you. Very generous. Minor Cheryl, thank you as always. Very kind. Question, Mary, do you think Friday's lack of buying economic blackout had any impact? You know what's fascinating? Did we hear anything about it? No. So I have no idea. Probably because if it hadn't, they would have let us know. So we've got to keep doing stuff like that. And again, how do you tell? So it's a little frustrating, but corporate media does not cover stuff like that. And, again, how do you get access to that kind of information? Be great. Henry, very generous. Thank you so much. Comment, the GOP gone off planet. Yeah, that's a good way of describing the fascists. Unfortunately, they're still on this one, but appears accepting of every line. Conspiracy theory, there's a fraud. Everything Donald et al. Touches is corrupted and dies. Keeping the fight, Mary. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Henry. I concur. Another Canadian, AJM. Thank you so much for that. Comment, I had a father just like DJT. Wow, I'm very sorry because I knew my grandfather quite well, and wow. Like he almost destroyed 2 generations. Not just the first one. So I'm so sorry, and I hope you got through that as unscathed as humanly possible, because none of his 5 children did. Chef Ellie, another Canadian. Awesome. Thank you so much. Comment, hi Mary, hugs from Canada. And a question. If your military or SCOTUS fail to hold whilst many other fundamental institutions are being completely gutted, can democracy hold? No. One of the reasons that our democracy is on a knife's edge, if it still is because of the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, who doesn't seem to think that the Constitution is operative anymore. So yeah, if the military goes, it's over. Let's hope we don't find out. Kim, super sticker. Thank you so much, Kim. Pat, comment. I love Daredevil cats. Cool. I mean, I do too. I just don't want one. Or let's put it this way. If I had one, that cat would be very bored. Dylan, thank you so much, Dylan. Question, Mary, did you ever visit the World Trade Center? Yes. And that's all I can say about it. Sorry. Can't talk about it. Paula, comment, keep those very cool videos coming, Mary. I have every intention of doing so, Paula. So thank you. I'm glad you think they're cool. Sage of Suffering, thank you, Sage. Question, what's your favorite music genre, Mary? It's a tie. I listen to a lot of different stuff, but I mean, if I had to choose, I'd say classic rock, folk, and some alternative, which isn't fair. I'm cheating. But there's a lot of music in the world, and it's... Oh, how could I forget? Well, you know what? I'm just going to go with that. Leave the discussion of classical music and opera for another time. I don't want to bore you. Deborah, super sticker. Thanks so much, Deborah. Susan, one of our awesome moderators. Hello, Susan. Comment. Thank you to everyone who has liked, subscribed, and shared. Thank you to everyone who has donated. Appreciate you all. Yes, indeed. We appreciate all of you. Truly. Ordinary person, thank you so very much. Comment, keep speaking out for democracy in America and Ukraine. Yes, I will. I have no intention of stopping. None of us here will ever stop doing that. Truth to power, guys. Truth to power. Rock and Steady, thank you very much. That's very generous of you. Question, have you seen the video of the cat hissing at Donald? It's funny. No, I haven't, but I mean, of course cats hiss at him because cats are really smart and really cool, as has been established. Set name a lot 6T3. I hope I got that right. Super sticker, thank you so very much for that. And that wraps it up for us. It has been great to be with you this evening. Thank you so much to everybody who's watching on YouTube and the very tiny number of you who are streaming from Twitter. And of course, everybody listening to us in podcast form. Thank you for your awesome comments. They really keep me on my toes, and I love answering your questions and listening to what you guys have to say. Thanks to our awesome moderators again for making this a place that so many people and an increasing number of people, as it turns out, want to be. And to my extraordinary, phenomenal team who does work that I cannot describe to you. It's so impressive, and it seriously, it just makes all of this easier to bear. So thanks, guys. I think it's Monday. So we of course will be back tomorrow night. Monday through Friday, we're here at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I am in the Eastern time zone, which makes everything easier. And Nerds will be at 12 noon tomorrow. So please check that out as well. And as mentioned, lots of other videos dropping about that sort of take deep dives. Some of it's about the stuff that's going on. Some of it is about, just sort of the psychological makeup of Donald and the, they're quite horrific and dysfunctional. Dysfunctional is not strong enough a word, but psychopathologically dysfunctional family he came from. And me too. All right. So thanks again. I will see you tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern and 6 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, everybody, please stay safe and be kind.